Arkansas farmers, hundreds of them, are asking the feds to come save them. They are struggling right now, and they're struggling for a bunch of different reasons. Almost everything that could go wrong for Arkansas farmers has gone wrong this year. There's a lot of bankruptcies and even the closing of many farms that have been in families for generations. It's a dismal global market, plunging commodity prices, and so even the hope of breaking even is starting to fade. They've had bad weather, and I don't need to tell you, soaring inflation and tariffs. This time last year, the price of rice was about 40% higher than it is now. 40% higher. Input costs have gone up, fertilizer's gone up, commodity prices have gotten worse. So after a horrible year last year, where most farmers in Arkansas lost money, this year it's going to be even worse, said a farmer there in Arkansas from Independence and also from Jackson County.
See that picture Tony showed with a lot of them with their head in their hands. I just can't believe it. They got together yesterday. There they all are, hundreds of them. They gathered to talk to the congressional representatives from Arkansas, asking these state representatives and the governor to convince the president to provide emergency aid to see them through to next year, or these farms are going to, yeah, see the guy with the head in his hands? And they're all looking down and they're downtrodden because money that would help them in the so-called big beautiful bill won't be available in the time that they would need to be saved. So they've got their hands out. What's crazy is, I believe Arkansas is a red state. Correct me if I'm wrong. And a lot of these people are the ones that voted for Trump.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this is your, the daddy you voted for busting up the house. And as Kim said, the federal dollars don't get released until late next year. And the reality is that a lot of these people you're seeing in that picture will be forced out of business before that.
One of the farmers said if there's no emergency funding this year, there will be 1 out of 3 farmers who will file bankruptcy. That's what one of the farmers is saying. 1 out of 3 of us is going to lose it.
Well, I mean, the suicides among farmers are reaching sort of epic proportion. There is, as I say, more and more people getting out of the farming business. These are people who've had, generational aspects to the business, have been like, 6th and 7th generation farmers. Mm-hmm. And they met with these congressional delegations that are there from Arkansas, their state representatives on Capitol Hill. And the plea is, ask Papa Trump to release this money. And I don't know that they're going to get relief. I mean, I do think that Trump historically has been sympathetic to farmers. I mean, you'll remember in Trump season 1, when he was president after 2016, he imposed tariffs on a lot of the soybean crop. And a lot of the soybean farmers were really screwed. It wasn't just them, but I remember them. They were kind of head of the parade. And all the farmers affected, many Midwestern farmers and farmers across the Plains states, were going under. And what Trump did was he had checks issued to cover the shortfall created by his policy. And that chilled them out in terms of them being angry about the policy, and it made them whole. Now, most of them didn't want a check. They want to actually run a business, and a farming business that generates an income. But nonetheless, that was a way to take care of them. Here, they're going to have to urgently cut some checks. Otherwise, there will be people going under, particularly in these communities in Arkansas. So, I mean, these were like urgent pleas at this meeting that Kim is talking about. They were told, we're going to take your message. We're going to get it back up to D.C. We're going to do everything we can to get you the help you need. That was the district director for Congressman Rick Crawford who made those statements. But, will that be enough? I don't know. I think it's a true sign that an already distressed industry is very much affected by public policy, and public policy has shifted dramatically. And so many of those who voted for Trump are going to be horribly affected and maybe driven out of business.
And we're talking about farmers in Arkansas because they gathered yesterday and they said, listen, we need help or we're going to be put out of business right now. But this is going on in multiple states. So Arkansas farmers are not the only ones affected. I'm looking at an article about Massachusetts farmers having the same problem. There are farms in other states as well. So it's not specific to Arkansas.
Yeah. And look, I mentioned in the first half hour, that story about the Georgia plant, the Hyundai plant, that also was a transformation of a community that needed to be transformed. Mm-hmm. These are rural communities that need an infusion of industry. And here you had it in such a big way. It was going to be employment for so many people, not to mention all the restaurants and service industries that were going to go up in this town around this Hyundai plant. And instead, Trump administration moves in with the ICE agents and they clean it out. It's absolutely been stopped. Not to mention you have like a diplomatic 5-alarm fire on your hands because you've demanded all of these concessions from Korea. They've given you a bunch of them, even though they haven't signed on the dotted line for the $350 billion. And then you screw them this way. So everybody's a loser in that game, except, I suppose, ICE, Tom Homan, and Kristi Noem. So,
reading the story in the Atlanta Black Star, they say the problem spans nationwide, this farming issue. During the 2024 presidential election, farming-dependent counties overwhelmingly voted for Trump, with almost 78% supporting his candidacy and similar support in 2020. And now it's Trump's policies that are punishing these very communities.
Yeah.
How do you keep a base when you're, obliterating that base? How does that work?
Well, speaking of that, he has maintained a base, like it or not. I mean, you can get into the middle to left echo chamber and think, oh my God, this guy is so underwater. Forget it. He's so done. And there is some truth to that on certain issues. But take a look at this polling. Tony, show them a little bit of Kornacki and these polling numbers and see if you don't kind of scratch your head and go, wow, okay.
Hey, thanks, Kristen. Good morning. So take a look at our Decision Desk poll. And again, we're looking at all adults here. This is voters and potential voters. Casting a wide net, we ask about President Trump's job performance, a 43% approval rating. That's what we find in this poll. And of course, that number, that's about the level we've seen Trump at in this second term. And it's about the level we saw Trump at too back during his first term. So it's sort of a bit low historically, but this is very much par for the course as far as President Trump is concerned. On some specific issues, he continues to get his lowest marks right here. This is inflation, the cost of living. Just 39% approve of Trump's job performance there. We've seen that throughout his second term as well. He does better when it comes to the border security and immigration, 47% job approval. We did something interesting here, though, Kristen. We also asked about a different facet of this topic, not just the border, but deportations. When we ask about deportations, it falls a little bit, 43% approval right there. So small, but potentially significant. And we say, again, numbers we saw during Trump's first term as well. One of the things we saw in Trump's first term, Republicans had a bad midterm. They lost control of the House in 2018. They're trying to avoid that next year. One of the things they're hoping will be different this time, and our poll confirms it continues to be the case right here. The Democratic Party is less popular than the Republican Party. Neither's doing great, but the Democrats more unpopular. We did not see that during Trump's first term. We are seeing that during Trump's second term. And we asked about some other specific areas here. How about vaccine use in the news this week? Florida relaxing that mandate. What do you think about the use of vaccines? You see broad support here, though. It is notable in our poll, under 50% now identify themselves as strongly supporting the use of vaccines. And we asked about this topic of gerrymandering, the redrawing of congressional districts, partisan advantage. 82% in this survey said they would rather have a nonpartisan commission, then the party in power in a state draw the lines. Now, we don't know how deep this sentiment actually is, but one thing worth keeping in mind as this has played out, Republicans just did this in Texas. They didn't need voter approval in Texas. They could just do it in the legislature. California Democrats trying to counter Texas, they're going to need voter approval this November. This is sort of the baseline sentiment that they're up against out there. It doesn't mean the polling looks like this on that topic in California, but this is something to keep an eye on, maybe affecting that race.
Yes, certainly one of the biggest flashpoints ahead of the midterms. Steve Kornacki, great.
Okay, that's but what you get from that is that on individual issues, Trump does seem to be taking on water, Trump policies. But on the other hand, his base is unshakable. I mean, you can say, well, a president with 43, and I'll ask David K. Johnson about this. He has a better sense of this history than do I, but I would say the days of big approval ratings for a president, they're really pretty well gone. I mean, America is a hyper-partisan political environment such that 43% might get it done. I mean, again, we live in the horror of these policies. I mean, I think what's happening in America is absolutely horrifying. I mean, this latest Supreme Court decision, which essentially permits a kind of racial profiling, and they can just pick you up for any reason at all. I mean, pick you up first and, concoct the reasons later. This isn't the America that we have known. And yet, on many of these policies where he's perceived as a tough guy, it works with his supporters, and his supporters are sufficient in number that he may not drop much below that 43. Now, I would say the one thing that is in the offing is some real whitewater rafting when it comes to the economy and the economics of America. I mean, the economy is not going to shake off these tariffs for much longer. They're starting now to really weigh the economy down, and the employment numbers are troubling. So I think once all of this stuff really begins month after month to have a hold on the American economy, then I think in terms of his popularity, you could see things drop off on a ledge. But I note just quickly, and then I'll get to David, the fact that the Democrats, they poll way underwater. They poll under what Trump polls. Even the bad polls on Trump poll ahead of the Democrats. So the Democrats need to find voices, the Pritzkers of the world, who can really perhaps lead us out of this.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.